Welcome back, Fancastic listeners. We have another guest this week, Aaron Berson from Fringe Advisory. Welcome, Aaron.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you. And of course, our resident expert, Christine Triantos. Christine, great to see you again in the room.
Thanks, you guys as well. I don't know where the time has gone, but here we are, right? We won't even say what month it is.
When you're building a CAS practice, time goes by really fast. I think
Right.
Aaron knows a little bit something about that. And that's
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the future of CAS. My guess is we'll probably get into some of the lessons learned and the pitfalls and all that good stuff from a real life practitioner, Aaron. That is you, real life practitioner, alive and well. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Christine, to really dig into
Sounds
the
good.
details. And I
Yeah.
will pop in when I have a burning question, but not
Thanks,
until I have a
Christy.
burning question. So you guys
Thank you. Thank you.
take it away.
Sounds good. So, Erin, yes, thank you for joining our podcast. This has been fun, but you and I have known each other for a long time, and we've been in this space. It feels like eternity, decades. But give us a little background of you and kind of your role and what you've done in this space.
Sure. So, I started in the space, like you said, forever ago. Um, but I was at a top 20 firm, and then I went to a top 200 firm, and then my own two-person firm. Well, now we're more than two people, but and at each level, I've built a CAS practice from zero on up, right? So I've kind of done it with every number of zeros after whatever issue you want to deal with, which has been a fun ride. But all in all, I think I was started this when cloud was first being talked about, right? When we were looking into that. And I remember giving a presentation to 15 partners in a room as a lowly little senior, right? Trying to pitch them on this idea that we could build this. And here we are. And it's actually like all everyone can talk about nowadays. So it's been fun. Yeah.
And it's evolved a lot since then, right? Because we are still working on our own servers and local
Mhm.
files. Nothing was internet based. Everything was still very, I would say, manual, not super tech
Yeah.
heavy or savvy. Although we've always been in that tech space, and so I know that you're an uber tech nerd, and and that's your passion. And I think a lot of what you're doing within your own firm and your own practice right now really just speaks to that tech side of what you do, and really how you view the industry and the practice and how you're building your own practice. So
Mm.
when you think about the future of CAS, and I know there's multiple steps, walk us through kind of, what your how your vision of everything that you're doing and how you're building CAS has really changed now versus even 5 years ago.
Yeah. So I think the pace of change, and you've heard this from anyone who's ever said anything recently, is growing exponentially, right? So 5 years ago, we were talking about what had been being worked on for the 10 years prior, right? I feel like now the conversation is what's been happening for the 10 months prior, right?
Right.
And it's that pace of change that's only going to get faster, which makes it even harder to build a CAS practice. But I think short term, that change is going to be constant and or constantly around, but ever increasing in pace and leading towards an ultimate end goal. Who knows where it's going to ultimately be? We'll talk later, I'm sure, about what I think that's going to be. But my brain today of where I'm thinking now is how do I leverage things that before were really unattainable, right? And I think that's really the shift in the thinking or the thought process. Whereas before it was, what can I go find and integrate and leverage, someone else's work versus how can we solve both our internal and our clients' problems in a creative way, but where we can actually be the source of what we want to use versus having to find the best tool out there. I think that's really the
Yeah.
big shift that's happened in the last, call it 6 to 8 months.
And can you give an example of what you would have deemed as unattainable?
Sure. So, back when I was at the top 20 firm, after doing it for several years, something as simple as having our own custom dashboard or, interface layer with our clients, right? Where we could capture them, display information to them, and do that. At that point in time, I had a conversation with the CTO of the firm. He estimated that it'd be $5 million to build something to that degree, right? Today, not saying that everyone should go do this, but you can do that in a weekend with a whole lot of Red Bull, and you can get to something that's, you know, decent enough for that, layer in a few weeks, and a firm, let alone a sole proprietorship or sole practitioner rather, could have something to that degree, right? So that magnitude of accessibility is what I'm more so talking about there.
Yeah. I would say that you could probably build that in a weekend on Red Bull, but I don't know that the typical person could do that, but we'll add a
Not
little bit
the
of attention.
probably not the typical. I'm definitely an AI junkie and a nerd when it comes to all this stuff. But you'd be surprised once you get over that barrier of just the fear of what if I'm going to screw something up, or I don't even know how to take step one. I think once you get over that hump, it happens very quickly, and you realize that it's more of having a conversation than it is like having to structure this whole massive thing, which is how it used to be, right? And I forget who it was. I want to say it might have even been Deloitte who came out with this statistic. They analyzed something like, I forget if it was 10,000 or a million like AI interactions, and they said that the individuals that were using AI the most effectively used it as a thought companion and almost had conversations with them and pushed for deeper answers or clarification versus those making a whole big framework and everything like that. And I believe it was Deloitte, and that was the one of the big things that came out of that was like those are actually skills we can teach people, right?
Right.
Pretty easily versus let me teach you how to be a programmer, right? That's harder to get to. But I think that's one of those things that people don't realize, that it's as simple as having a conversation with your computer, which is weird for at first, but that's really what it comes down to.
And teaching you those relationship skills with your clients, and I think that that's what you allude to. I know you and I have talked a lot over the last several months and dinners and events, but is that what you, um, reference when you say being the human in the loop?
So yes and no. So human in the loop is more so for when we start talking about agentic processes, to always have a human who's layering in some level of human judgment, right? Versus letting it run amok and who knows what comes of it, because we work in a very deterministic, right and wrong profession, right? There's really not a whole lot of gray area. So that's more what I mean by human in the loop. But there is another version of that you're alluding to, which is in the client relationship, having a human who's actually interacting with our clients and almost being the AI interpreter, if you will, right? Because I think that one thing that's never going to go out of style is people's desire for human to human connection.
Yep.
And I think that's something that even in the pre-AI world, in the CAS world, as we started doing more and more stuff through workflows and robotic process automation, and you know, I call it dumb automation instead of the AI automation. But there was already a pendulum swinging where people wanted more personal connection with their practitioners, but the practitioners wanted less because we wanted to get more done, right? So there was already a push there. So I think that's the the two areas of human in the loop is, in the client communication and in the actual work getting done.
And so are you able, so if you can give an example, are you able to train your team on that human connection piece with their clients? Because I feel like where we are right now, everything's moving so fast, right? And we've been in this industry for many, many decades, but I don't feel like everything right now is catapulted into you have to be an advisor and you have to learn this, within 5 years, not 30 years. And so do you feel like you're able to do that with your team, and how have you done that?
Yeah. So Well, I think that's first a misaligned premise to begin with is more my stance on that. I don't think everyone has to be an advisor. I think that's unrealistic and unfair to ask everyone to be an advisor. Just like for all the decades that our profession has existed, you don't ask every individual to be a partner, right? It's just not realistic because it's different skill sets. And that's why all the major firms have at the very top, you become a director or a partner because they're very different skill sets. So I think first and foremost, getting rid of that idea that everyone needs to be an advisor is an important first step because then it allows you the grace to identify team members who just aren't going to be, and that's okay,
Yeah.
right? But then you train them differently for a different end result because the gap there is just too wide, right? Or at least that's my opinion. So what I've been able to do with my team is to train those who have a propensity to be more client facing, and yes, to get them into that more advisor role. And I do use AI to do that to help them because it gives them a sense of confidence as well as a almost a automated coach, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been able to take some of how I think about things and want to talk to clients and basically codified that into a AI agent coach, if you will, that my team can ask that to review emails or ask it for how they to approach a situation and things like that, just to give more access to that. They can always still come to me, of course, but um, that's not always practical, right? So I think it's twofold: is identifying first who has that skill set innately and then embracing that. But then the people who don't, I think it's also a conversation with them where I think a lot of practitioners and firms miss the mark and they forget to include the employee in the conversation about the employee. And they just make these decisions for them versus asking them, what do you want out of your career? Right. And that's
Right.
something that I've focused very heavily on throughout my career is people first. Right. And I've I've actually made this mistake, and a year ago I almost had my best person leave because I forgot to include them in that conversation,
Yeah.
right? And in my brain I had a
Regardless of what level they're at.
correct.
Yeah.
They and fortunately I have a culture where like if you ever think about leaving, come talk to me first because I love my team and want to have that open communication. So she came to me, and I was working under a premise from a conversation I had had with her 2 years prior, where she said she didn't want any additional work or to take on more responsibility and was happy at this level. So great. She was an amazing individual contributor, kept her at that level, and basically never thought about it again um, until she came to me saying she wants more responsibility and she has this offer that might give her that opportunity because I forgot to keep her in that conversation when I thought about it every time after that. So,
Yeah.
had I done that, would have been very different. She's still with me, and it's been a year, and she's doing great and everything because we talked through it. But I think that's the other side of it. Of you might naturally have an idea of where you want someone to go or the skill set that they have, but sometimes the best person on the advisory side is the person who's hungriest because they want it, as
Yeah.
opposed to the person who's naturally really good at talking to people.
Right. In that storytelling piece, I like what you're saying. So, two things that really spoke to me of what you just said is one is I do feel like a lot of firms are starting to identify the people and saying, okay, we need client relationship managers
Hmm.
versus just the technical expertise, and it's not forcing all of the technical people to become advisors, and I feel like that's, you know, half and half, right? A relief to a lot of people, and then, others are like, "I no, I wanna be that client relationship manager too." So I do think that that's where the future of CAS and where a lot of practices are going. The second thing that you said or that I took away from what you said was, you know, and I think this is a really important aspect is that every practice, no matter what size you are, your AI agents are really the majority of it is your thoughts, your brain, what you've fed into it and not just what you're getting from, the general AI. And I think that
Hmm.
that is a really big piece that we need to just reinforce to people because it's putting in all of your expertise and decades of knowledge into that
Hmm.
AI agent to create what you want.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great point and something I've been talking about for years now with AI and machine learning, that what makes your firm different than the firm down the street, right? If you're all using Claude or OpenAI or Gemini, right? If you're all using the same underlying tool, and those are AI, the AI flagship firms, but insert any tool that you're currently using, right? What makes what you're doing for your clients different than what another firm could do for your clients? And unfortunately, I feel like in the CAS profession or area of the profession, a lot of firms are using the exact same tools, right? That's not a bad thing because they're good tools, but they aren't layering on a whole heavy layer of what is uniquely them, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's really
Right.
seen on the AI side because now you're getting actual answers that are the same as the other company, right? Like what Intuit has built into their QuickBooks Online of the advisory stuff that shows up, by the AI agent on the side of a P&L now, right? If that sounds like exactly what you would say to a client, that's a problem because they can now get that automated from, the $80 a month tool. So I do think that layer, when you build actual agents with AI, that is the differentiator, or what will become the biggest differentiator between my AI agents, your AI agents, the next firm's AI agents, will be who can essentially systematize their knowledge the best, right? So that not everything comes from the brain of an individual or is seeded with something from the brain of an individual, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do, yeah, that makes sense, and I think that's the biggest differentiator is really that knowledge and expertise that's
Hmm.
feeding those agents because like you said, it's not necessarily always technology, and there's so many amazing vendors out there in this space, but I know that you are utilizing AI in lieu of a lot of those tech products, and you're trying to build, what you want internally that
Hmm.
really suits you and your clients.
Yeah,
And so I don't know, can you give us some examples of what you
I have never-ending examples because I probably forget to eat most days because I'm playing with the AI. But yeah, I mean the middle to end of 26, my personal goal is every month about to find something that's hitting our company credit card and say, can we build that ourselves and stop paying a third party for it? And if we did build it ourselves, would it be better? So is it worth it? Right? If it's
yeah,
exactly the same, keep paying for it. Fine. Um, you know, I mean, there's so many examples of it, but really some of the things that I'm working on right now, I mean, it spans a million different directions, but one super simple example is um, email classification. Well, I guess that's not really a super simple example, but super simple example we'll say is Calendly, right? Or calendar booking and stuff like that. They've always had a shortfall that I've never gotten to work right. If I wanted someone to have a page where they can book a call with any number of the members of their team, for it to actually only show who's available or when all of those people selected are available. They just never really did that very efficiently. So I started building my own version of that and have that rolled out and working, right? So don't have to pay for a booking tool for everyone. Super simple, but that just is an example of some of the software that entire companies are built on is not out of the reach of firms to build their own version of it and layer in their own thing to that, right? So that's an example that's very straightforward. Then there's the email classification. So I have a software that looks at every one of my emails and determines, does this need a response? Is this informational? Is this marketing? Is this, a sales prospect? It puts things into 8 different buckets. And this is a third party tool that we pay for. And, it does a great job and it's awesome. And it even will draft initial responses with AI to clients. And I've used it for now a year and a half, right? Awesome. I could not live without it with the number of emails I get a day. 3 days ago, I decided I think I need more granularity in how these emails are getting classified. And just before the call, I was running my first test on all 500 emails I got yesterday to classify that and put more granular relational information behind it from that standpoint. And probably by the end of the weekend, I'll have that fully built. And not that I won't need that other tool, but I'll have what that tool does plus 10 other degrees of information around every single email, right? Eventually, I'll probably sunset that tool because I won't need it, but that's the example. And granted, I'm an AI nerd, so I can do this over the weekend, like you said, but
With Red Bull.
yes, with actually, it's cold brew for me,
Oh,
hence the coffee mug, but I think it's whether you as a practitioner can do it, someone on your team can do it, or you have and hire a consultant to come in to do it, right? Like I help firms build this stuff and I even help my clients build this stuff too. But no matter what route you go to do this, the point is it's accessible, right?
yeah.
Even if you hire a third party to do this, it's not going to be that $5 million example that I told you about. It might be, $5,000-$10,000 to do something like this. So it's still that barrier to entry has massively eroded over the last 2 years, let's say.
Yeah. And can you speak on, I mean, obviously there's the cost of, what we're paying subscription fees and all of that. But, aside from your time,
Mhm.
which is a huge cost, is your time. c- Can you give people just a perspective of the cost of what you're doing that's still, running through your P&L for your firm from that perspective, just to give people an understanding of subscription costs and everything versus what you're building?
So like cost of like the software we're talking about and what I'm talking about replacing it, or like the cost that
Just
I'm
of what
spending on AI.
yeah, not the, software cost of what, you know, plug and play. Really, what does it really cost you to start to build these things out on your own?
Shockingly little, I would say. So you have two different ways of going, right? And I think, well, really three different ways of going. You have the big flagship, frontier models like the Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic's Claude, and those types of things. And within that, you have monthly subscriptions or you have per token, usage based pricing. For small firms, the subscriptions are more than enough, right? And those subscriptions cost anywhere from $20 a month to $250 a month. Now, if you're building something, you probably need the higher end of those models. I mean, I have a subscription to OpenAI, Claude, and Gemini for all of those on the max tier of them because I'm psychotic, but that's where I am. And then I also have what I call a Franken server that I built in my basement that I run my own local models on as well. That I just have to pay for electricity, and I could run endless amounts of compute through them. So there's lots of different levels, but really, if you're getting started, right, you could get started with it on the $25-$35 plan to just get your feet wet, and $100 plan will allow you to do some fun stuff. And then when you get serious, you go up to a $200 plan and then multiple
Yeah.
providers. So really not a whole heck of a lot in all reality. It's more the time to build it at that point,
Right. Right.
right?
So everything that you just described, I think what you're saying is kind of the right now of CAS, right? And I think the way that you framed it is, you know, building a comprehensive system first to get to the end goal. And so what would you describe as that end goal of the future of CAS? Even though it's
Yeah.
ever changing.
Yeah, I mean, this is my answer right now. In a month, I reserve the right to completely change it. Um, but before I say that, I do want to say, because you mentioned, building and all this stuff. As much as I would love to tell everyone to go start playing with AI and building and everything, although play with it, but if you try to put all of those things in place without first systematizing and codifying your internal systems and workflows and knowledge and everything, no matter what you build, it's going to fail, in my opinion. And this is why, the statistics come out that 95% of large organizations, their AI initiatives fail, is because they don't have the fundamentals built first. And I have never seen an accounting firm that has those fundamentals built to be able to do that naturally. So I just caution everyone, don't go try to do all that and then wonder why it doesn't work.
Right.
That's first and foremost. But I think that the future of CAS is migrating towards what I call managed FinOps, or managed financial operations, where in the CAS world, we're going to be doing less and less of the actual accounting and what we today call CAS work. And we're going to be more so sitting on top of systems, processes, and agents and monitoring and maintaining them, right? And being the human in the loop to ensure nothing's going off the rails. Just like how now our clients hire us in CAS so they don't have to go hire accounting professionals and vet them and know that they're doing the right stuff. They also don't want to do the same thing around AI and agents and tools and systems. So I think that's going to migrate where we will be sought after to implement and set up that entire ecosystem. And a lot of it will be self-populating and self-operating. And then we're going to be sitting on top of that and then using our time on the newer item of actually being in our clients' operations and helping them build internal financial tools to solve their unique problems. Great example of this is we have a client. They do um, they do construction work. They use a system that is ancient, and they want to operate a certain way. And they need to see insights that pull together information from 5 different systems. So we've built a system that overlays all 5 of those, brings it all together, and presents it in a way that is actionable for them. Not just a dashboard that puts it together, but an actual place that they can interact with that data and explore that data. We've built that leveraging AI. There's no AI in that system today, but we were able to do that because we know all the pieces. And I think that's where, as a profession, we're going towards. I don't know how fast it's going to get here, but I think that's the future because of how much we're able to leverage AI and how much the reality of what we do in accounting is rules based, which there's a reason why the programming and coding world has been so disrupted in the last few years from AI, because it's very much rules based, and why there's such a fear that accounting is next or one of the next ones. But if you look at what's happened to the programming and development space, that has definitely removed some people's jobs, but it has exploded the entire category to be 10 times bigger than it ever was. I think the same thing is going to happen to the accounting space. It's going to get rid of some of the lower level jobs and positions and roles, but it's also going to open it up to a world of people that never would have even entertained it.
Yeah. So in I love all this information, Aaron. Like we could sit and talk for hours, but based on what you just said in closing,
Mhm.
what would be your biggest piece of advice for anybody at any firm size based on what you just said as being kind of the end goal of a step or steps that they should start or take?
I mean, this is what I've always said, even before AI, is learn to play and learn to experiment with things, because we live in a world now where change is happening so fast that if you're waiting for it to be perfect or waiting for someone else to tell you exactly how to do it, you're already 10 steps behind. Because there's the people who have been playing with it from day one, who, although they might get it wrong half the time, they have that much more experience in just understanding it and figuring out how to leverage it better than someone else. So, just play, and you'll be surprised what you discover if you give yourself the permission and opportunity to just try things new.
I would add to that too, because what you're saying about like the whole AI is also playing with the add-ons to the AI,
Hmm.
right? And so I think people don't even, see or understand those, but how much more you can get out of the add-ons with the AI
Yeah. And
that's
it's
already.
not just for AI. I mean, anywhere in the CAS stack. I mean, that's what I used to do when I'd try a new system. I'd get the demo for a week and I'd go play with it and try to break it and see what happened. Right. So, like, even not even AI, but just playing with any system or process, you find the edge cases, you find where they break, and you're then thinking differently because the next time you go to explore a situation, you immediately start thinking about, oh, this is where it's not going to work, and now I have to put a process around that to catch it and prevent it. And now all of a sudden, the entire quality of everything you're doing is raising because you're catching those things before they happen.
Right, right.
It's a
Well, I
mindset
think
shift.
I love the mindset shifts. I think we should continue this conversation every 3 or 4 months to see how much of what you said or thought, 4 months ago changed.
I would love to. I definitely would say 4 months ago I would not be saying the stuff I'm saying now, and now I'm like every spare minute I have, I'm building something new. So
So we're gonna track the evolution of Aaron Berson, and we're gonna, like, see how that progresses.
I think that we should. I actually have a couple of my own takeaways from this discussion, and the first is keep the human in the loop. I
Mhm.
love that. Preach, word, yes. Thank you for saying that. I always say AI is meant to elevate, not eliminate. You just said it
Yes.
in a different way. So I love hearing that the human is so, so important to the process. And then the
Mhm.
other thing is, Aaron, I think you need to build a AI bot that reminds you to eat because it's telling you, it's informing you on everything else in your life. Like
Yeah.
you just set up a reminder to eat. That's just crazy.
Yeah. It'll be like 3:30. I'm like, oh wait, I haven't eaten today. What have I been doing? Oh, okay. Now I get it.
I do the same thing. I'm not a morning eater though. Like I just get going and then my stomach will be like, "Hey, dummy, you haven't eaten today." So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. That's a problem with me.
Hmm.
Thank you guys
Same.
for a great discussion. Aaron, thank you for being here today. And yeah,
Thanks for
we're going to
having me.
bring you back in a few months to see if these predictions come true because I'm curious too.
Well, we'll see. I'll definitely have them true internally because I will have built 99% of this stuff, but we'll see where we are.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you for being here, Christine. Thank you for your expertise again. And listeners, keep coming back for more Cast Gold. Gold, people. Keep coming back. That's our promise to you. And this is Fancast.